feeling. The Force brought us together. We're not alone. Good people will fight if we lead them.
People keep telling me they know me. No one does.
But I do.
Like complete person for the most part. So.
Well, I am Lindsey, and Fuego, never leave me alone with CP again, ever. It was horrible. Do not do it, sir. No, but my YouTube is my 2 cents of nonsense. How's it going? Welcome to the show. Happy holidays.
Oh no, this is go time. We're hours away.
I say. Yeah. I say Murray Crimbus, or obviously Festivus is a big thing around my part as well. So, Festivus for the rest of us.
So going over the weekend that was, we're coming to you Tuesday due to our 1 day break. But normally, if you're listening and you want to catch us on YouTube, it's Monday night, every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern on the WILIscredia YouTube channel. If you want to listen, Show Business on Apple, Google, Podbean, maybe assortment of others, but Show Business. The 2 words, Show Business. Oddly enough, we have that title. But weekend ending December 15th. Jumanji Next Level came in first with 60 million. Frozen 2 came in second with 19 million. Knives Out, third place with 9 million.
Still hanging around.
Richard Jewell flip-flopped from Friday, took over fourth place with 5 million, and Black Christmas fell down to fifth with 4 and change, but 4 nevertheless. Yeah. So I guess we'll start with you, Fuego, because you are the only one who saw Jumanji. So take it away.
Yeah, isn't it though? So I saw it yesterday afternoon when I was getting done with work. First film I had seen in about a week after. I actually had pressed to Richard Jewell last Wednesday, and since I was sick, I couldn't do that. And I even had early for Jumanji, I think, on Tuesday. But I just, it is what it is. But nonetheless, I enjoyed Jumanji, but I can't say that I was. I don't know. I watched the previous one, Welcome to the Jungle, because of the fact that a lot of my friends recommended it to me. And when I had seen the trailers for it, I was like, it looks lame. And I hold that original Robin Williams film in pretty high regard. I saw that in the theaters as a kid and enjoyed the hell out of it. And so I did not see Welcome to the Jungle in the theaters, but upon those recommendations, I went with low expectations, and it had a very fun viewing experience once it was on home release. And so for this one, I think I went in expecting a little bit more, and I got more of the same, although I will mention that the addition of Danny DeVito and Danny Glover, respectively, they're kind of the moral and kind of like, I guess, heart of the film in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Because they're old friends who are at odds with each other, and they're trying to reconnect, and they get sucked into the game with a couple of the kids. And so it's at least a different spin in that regard. And you've got a little bit of Rhys Darby again. You've got, a little bit of the Jonas Kid again. So I will say Awkwafina is very funny in this movie when Danny DeVito inhabits her body, and they kind of imply in some of the trailers that there's going to be some body jumping and things like that without really getting into it. But Kevin Hart trying to channel Danny Glover is absolutely hilarious. One of the best things of the film. The Rock trying to do DeVito, not so much. It doesn't work as well. But man, Awkwafina as DeVito doing the accent and stuff, it's really, really amusing. Yeah, and so it has its bright moments, and it's a fun enough movie, but it's pretty much just your standard 3-star kind of forgettable fare, even if it was an enjoyable popcorn flick for with a fun cast. So,
do you think with a Star Wars disaster, it could flip flop and retake first in 2 weeks?
strange thing is that this movie 2 years ago sustained, and it was, I think, at least at the time, the highest-grossing Sony Pictures film that they had.
Wait, hold that thought.
Fuego,
hold that thought. Do you have? Wait.
It just chugged along.
Do you have stuff going on in the background? Do you have any any apps that you could shut down? Your Skippies. So start over everything you said about Jumanji, because you were like.
Okay. Well.
I'm fascinated by the idea of Frank Reynolds being the moral heart of a movie, though.
Not something you would expect, you know. So I guess I'm trying to think, like how much did you guys?
I'll lead you in. So when Last Jedi came out, Jumanji was in second and stayed second, and then once the backlash started for Last Jedi, Jumanji actually 2 weeks later came in first. So it was a really, really odd setup for Jumanji for a couple of weeks. It rode in second for a couple.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, it's something I'm assuming that they're hoping duplicates because of the fact that the previous one just kind of hung around and it just kept making money. And I think it was one of those word of mouth pictures that both domestically and internationally. That I mean, even though I didn't see it in theaters, it was the fact that people who had heard around the water cooler, whatever from friends, family, they were just like, yeah, it's much more entertaining than we were anticipating. And the fact that it's technically a sequel as opposed to a reboot, which a lot of people, myself included, probably assumed that it was. When I realized it was technically a true sequel, I was more down with the idea. And I don't know. I mean, this one has some charm, and as I mentioned, it's got more of it has more heart to it, I think, than the previous one, which, I mean, is a for better and for worse sort of situation, because a lot of the rest of the stuff is just kind of rehash of certain jokes and things that we saw in the previous one. And up until the very end of the movie, I was like, yeah, there isn't really much chance that they could do another one of these. And without spoiling stuff, there's kind of a door open, so to speak. So
I actually have a fun way that they could do a third one. They'll never do this, but what if they take ideas from Hot Tub Time Machine and they put it in Jumanji? So it's like someone's intentionally playing the game so they get trapped there or whatever, but then come into the future, and then they learn a bunch of stuff about the future, and then they beat the game, and then they're back in the past when they're a kid again. And so, they try and become a millionaire that way or something like that. But they also learn how heart and family and so they don't do that. I don't know. It's cheesy but dumb.
well thought out nonetheless, though. I mean, tell you.
I'm writing it right now. It'll be done by 20.
So to the movie that all of us have seen, Fuego. Yeah. So the movie
Rise of Skywalker. We all managed to get in to see that early screening.
We got a switcheroo for you guys.
Yep, I was in California yesterday. Yeah, it was terrific.
So the big stinker of the weekend was Black Christmas, which opened up on over 2,100 screens. They were projecting and hoping, is the best word I can use, for $10 to $15 million for Black Christmas. It pulled in 4.2. And it's funny, there was the director of the film was kind of preloading. She was pulling a little bit of Elizabeth Banks, saying that this isn't for insert certain audience here, and that was before everything started. And then she just posted this late last night, and I'll read the tweet. That is not it. That is it. She says, okay, so opening weekend over, gonna go off Twitter for a while, but before I do, I just want to say the writer and I had about a month, ! To write a script before going to New Zealand to prep. I'm assuming New Zealand is NZ. Is there a place in, yeah, to prep.
It's the Nether Zone, actually. It's quite horrible this time of year.
Neon Zone, cool.
I'm gonna go.
So to prep for Black Christmas, we realized we had a chance to make a movie that would hopefully speak to people who don't always feel represented in horror. We knew it would be we knew it would ruffle some feathers, but we felt it was important. But with Blumhouse's guidance and support, we made a movie in 8 months! That, I think, feels urgent and messy and ragey and hopefully resonates with people. Can you guys translate "It's Not My Fault" to English?
I mean, to be fair, 8 months to make a movie like this is an incredibly short amount of time.
I don't disagree with that one bit, but what the hell is she doing Josh Tranking it? Oh, excuse me. Why wasn't she Josh Tranking it before it came out and saying this exact message instead of saying, "Well, this isn't the movie for you"? If you knew you had a rush and you had a bit of a disaster on your hands, why would you try to make it sound like, "Oh, well, yeah, only a certain people are going to like it"?
I actually must say, this feels like the opposite of the Elizabeth Banks move. This feels like an essence of ownership to the failure, and it's almost like was put in a tough situation and I made something that could have been better, but I still have an essence of pride about it, and that it's an important message that needed to get out there as far as representation, as far as a lot that this film has to say, even if it does bludgeon you over the head with its message. Like, I mean, we are talking a force fed down your throat as overt as anything that I've heard recently. But the thing is, it's not a bad message. I mean,
no,
it is one that is incredibly important in the modern, era of Hollywood, especially with, Me Too and, Time's Up and stuff like that. It's just, there's an essence of subtlety that the movie
doesn't have.
Makes no interest in attempting. And the biggest thing that I noticed when I was watching it this afternoon is the fact that I know there was all of that discussion about the fact that, R-rated from the get-go, and then, they trimmed it to become PG-13. There's one essence of the script that involves, I don't know if it's a minor spoiler to say, the color of blood of certain characters.
Yeah. Black.
I felt like
it's in the trailer.
That made it very evident that this movie was 100% attempting to be PG-13 from the get-go. And I'm assuming that because, if you have green blood, if you have purple blood, as long as it's not red, the MPAA is not going to go after you. And they will be much more lenient with the amount of gore, so to speak, whether it's zombies, aliens, whatever. And so I think this movie was always trying to be PG-13, and then they submitted their cut, and they still got an R, and they were just like, well, damn, I guess we have to trim down some of these kill scenes or whatever. And they finally got their desired rating, but, all of the coverage and, controversy and stuff like that, it didn't really help with people being interested in the film because they thought it was going to be, I don't know, like defanged into blood.
There's a shot in there that I feel like only hits home with blood. It's near the beginning. It's this snow angel thing where this woman's.
I actually like the way that
without
was shot.
blood.
I thought it looked really pretty. Well, I mean,
I'm with you.
The end game. As
I'm telling you.
She gets stabbed and she just turns to dust, and there's this snow angel.
A la Avengers. No, I'm with you. The shot is gorgeous, but to really hit that home,
people don't die in movies anymore. They get stabbed by Thanos. Sorry,
to really hammer that point home, she gets dragged in the snow. If it was blood trailing, that's a really, really good shot, and they neutered it.
Yeah.
Lindsey.
I've got a lot of really complicated feelings about this movie. So let's just to get to the main thing I want to talk about. While I was watching it, I thought this was Suicide Squad. I thought there was two versions of this movie that were shot and edited, and then they both sucked, and they couldn't decide which one to go with. One had kind of a supernatural twist to it, one didn't. They couldn't decide which one they wanted to commit to, so they just kind of smooshed them together, and that was the movie that we got.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But that turns out to not be correct, because this movie was written earlier this year and it was shot, and they didn't have time to do all of that. And so, like, with the moments in the movie where I'm like, this is suddenly very much like Us. That's a funny coincidence. There's no way that they.
This was shot after Us. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also has kind of like a pseudo. Hereditary feel to it when there's suddenly this like cult thing going on at the end out of nowhere. I don't know. It's a very confused movie, and like these tweets make so much sense to me, because when you don't have time, you just throw ideas at the wall, and you're just like,
Frankenstein, man.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I bet it was like 2/3 of the way through the writing process, or someone was like, magic cult, and they just rewrote the entire thing to be a magic cult and just went with it. Because, by the way, in this Black Christmas movie, there's a magic cult.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
But then very early in the movie, they introduced the idea.
Yeah, it's all in the trailer.
10 minutes.
It's all in the trailer.
Yeah.
Which is where the marketing campaign was so terrible for this movie too, because of the fact that as you're watching the movie, they try to like keep you guessing for the first 30, 40-ish minutes as to, could this person be involved? Could this person be a killer? Is it actually the fraternity? So on and so forth. And they made it plain and clear, and not just the trailers, but I saw spoiler-free reviews where they were referencing in the headlines, changing it from one person to a fraternity of killers. And I'm like, oh, well, thanks for the confirmation before anybody's seen the movie. They try to leave it vague enough in the film, and send, so much for that sort of guesstimation. So.
Well, I mean, the moment Cary Elwes opened his mouth in this movie, I'm like, oh, it's you.
Bad guy. Like, he just said, hi, I'm a bad guy.
Not because he's Cary Elwes and he's the only famous actor, and why would you get him if he's not the killer? But also just like the way his character talked and the way he was directed to act.
Yeah, like a faint English accent of some sort. Like what was that?
Yeah. I'm like, are you recreating the Princess Bride and Men in Tights like accent a little bit, and just trying to make it seem more sinister as opposed to playful? Like, I don't know. But
so the message was really, really heavy. Men are problems.
And for the record, predatory sexual stuff on college campuses is a great premise for a horror movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's absolutely amazing. And if you want to see a good version of this movie too, and I'm not even exaggerating this, Assassination Nation is what this movie wanted to be.
Yeah, that's not bad. I say, if you're looking for a college rape movie with similar situations, Higher Learning, I think, does similar things, and it has race issues, it has sex issues. I mean, it's a little over the top for the 90s, but I'll take that over the top for 2019. Lindsey, I have a specific question for you, because you and
no,
fine, I don't. So we're both of the same mindset.
Oh, and I have a lot of very interesting financial.
And I have that too. So, yeah. Mike, okay. Thank you very much in the super chat. We will get to that. We're segueing to Star Wars as soon as we possibly can. We just want to get rid of the other boring news first. Yeah. But thank you.
We will. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, sir.
But we just want to stay on focus stay on target. Stay on target.
Stay on target. Stay on target.
There you go, Star Wars.
So we're of the same mindset when it comes to something like Unplanned. That it's just message. If there's a movie, then so be it. Lindsey.
If there's a narrative in there somewhere, all the better. But we don't really care.
As our resident left-wing progressive, what is the difference between a film like that and a film like Black Christmas?
Well, the big issue with Black Christmas is literally every scene they're talking about it. Every scene. There's not a single scene where they instead just talk about just the history of the college or someone's backstory that isn't somehow related direct. It's like there's no moment where the characters just sit and just are people. They're literally always talking about it. And so after a while, you're just like, okay, I get it. Wait, so why are they doing this performance at the rapey fraternity? That doesn't make sense that they're doing the performance at the rapey fraternity. Oh, okay. So it's revenge for her. Okay, cool. But wait, but why is this a tradition? Do they always do this performance? There's just nothing happening, and they're just always talking about it. So your mind is wandering through the movie, and then the issues of it taking only 8 months and only having 3 weeks to write the script, like all that kind of contextualizes all that very nicely. It also the cult reminded me of an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer that I don't think anyone but me remembers. From season 2, episode 1, Buffy is upset that Angel's not paying attention to her, and so she goes to a rapey party at a fraternity.
See, the unfortunate
I do remember that episode.
I think the unfortunate thing about this movie is like we've kind of hinted at, the cinematography is pretty good. It's shot well. It's proficiently made, technically speaking.
The sound editing is horrible, but the visuals were great.
Well, I think editing
I would contend the acting isn't even that bad. I like Imogen. In stuff I've seen her in previous, like Green Room specifically. I think it's great. She's not as good in this, unfortunately. But I just feel like the script was the biggest problem and the hodgepodge that this became. The aforementioned Frankenstein, so to speak. And so
the fact that you feel it. You don't even have to look hard. You just feel it as you're watching this movie. Like things aren't right. They're shifting.
When they got to the third act, man, the third act is bonkers.
There's no wheels on the car anymore. It just falls off the tracks.
And there were like a couple rows behind me. There was like these 3 high school kids, like sports looking jock kind of guys, and just to get into that, and they were laughing at how just over the top and insane everything kind of becomes.
So there's moments in this movie, and you have a moment like the big thing about script writing is conflict. There should be conflict. There's an
and we're not I'm not blaming these
writers. No, listen.
They've worked in horror. They had no time. They had no time.
It's kind of shame on you, Mr. Blum. What are you doing rushing this thing out just to have a Christmas release? Congratulations. I hope that 4.2 was worth it.
It makes me wonder, what are they releasing on Christmas for 2020 that they had to release this for 2019? Because they didn't want to wait for 2021, apparently, so they had to release it now. Why was this the project that you rushed so hard? Your Blumhouse usually works with their creators to some extent, right? At least they seem to.
Yeah. We have another Friday the 13th in March. Like if you're set up on the date, wait 3 months. Give it a little time to breathe. So there's this potential.
Hell, 3 months probably would have made her weep with happiness. This director, like, oh my god, I can actually do some post-production.
You could have reshot something. You could have shot some things in the actual snow.
Right.
So there's this moment where they have an argument, and it's a solid point where a boyfriend of one of the girls in the house brings up a point like, hey, that's not fair for you to say that. I'm here. I'm with you. I'm not like that. And the girl snaps and says, did you just not all mend me? And screams at him and tells him it's not a right time. And then bang, she locks him out of the house. I think that's a perfect opportunity to really play on, like if she kicks him out of the house and locks him out and then he gets killed. If they're stuck with the decision, like, oh my God, we kicked him out for a silly argument and now he's dead. Like, if you had just stayed with that for 2 minutes and let that, choice sit with them for a second, that would have been such at least a tiny bit of a bigger deal.
Yeah, it would have added a ton more gravitas to the situation. That's for damn sure. And we know what happens with that character, obviously, without getting all spoilery. But I thought that it was interesting that they gave that character that moment to say that, but
then he gets kicked out.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I can't help but say that as a white straight man, I can't help but at least think a little bit like him and be like, no, we're not all like that. Please don't just put all of us into this regard. And also, there is a little bit of an essence with some of the characters and how they're written of a have your cake and eat it too, of just the whole, okay, we're gonna rage against this sort of mentality, sexism, all this different stuff, and then in the same right they're dressing super skimpily and kind of.
Which scene are you looking at?
Scandalously. No, they all looked terrific, but I mean, you guys know what I mean. And this is where I have to really just dance along the issue, and where I almost feel like with the subject matter being tackled here, I can't really be critical to a degree of at least the message that's trying to get across, even if I felt like it was just, overdone, like Lindsey was saying. So,
well, if you take the politics out of this movie, and they're just talking about just college in all those scenes, they're not talking about the time that she got assaulted. They're not bringing in this character who's like trying to get all these petitions signed. She's just talking about classes. This is still just a bad movie because it doesn't make sense. It was very edited and sloppily. The sound design's not great. It feels like it needs more time to stew. If this really isn't two different versions of a movie slopped together, the third act still comes out of nowhere. It's just but then just on top of all that, then you just have the fact that this movie's just constantly punching in the same thing. And you're right, CP. That would have been a great moment to get a counter argument going. And that would have been an interesting scene to see. Although at the same time, I do also kind of get the concept of, when I say this clearly, we're not saying all men, but then, choose your words better. We don't need to get into the grammatical debate. Not to
compare something. I don't want to compare something to something far stronger a movie and far stronger a message within said movie. But the end of American History X totally just hit you in the gut, and you're like, oh wow, all that.
I've never actually seen it.
Oh,
okay.
Fuego.
Really?
It's the movie where what's his name? Who was the Hulk? Is just a really happy, very nice guy, just living his life. Nothing happens. It's just very. It just goes to work, comes home every day.
A little bit of a misunderstanding.
Never goes to jail, right?
Yeah, there's a scene in a bathroom at a school, if I remember right, CP, at the very end of the movie that is just, it'll crush your spirits, man.
Because you're like, oh, all right, we're, everything's gonna be all right, and nope.
Yeah, it's like one of those mid to late 90s endings, very similar to like A Perfect World, Falling Down, some of these movies that will just like stomp on your heart at the end when you're hoping for some sort of redemption, and it's like, it's just pulled right away.
Nothing's earned, like I mean, I don't know, like my problem with a lot of modern day culture is people don't want to hear dissenting opinions. They just want to be told they're right, they're a badass, so on and so forth. And there's nothing to this movie. Like, it's just the women are going to save the day and band together and be ants. Ugh, that line, the ants line. Ugh.
Yeah, the whole analogy that they used for that.
And
it was pretty, again, very on the nose.
Right. And the funny thing was the girl with the vivacious hair, who was the leader, so to speak, when shit hits the fan, she hightails it. She's like, I gotta get out of here. And Imogen Poots' character is like, wait, hold on, we gotta go back. I figured it out. But she just wants to leave, which is just like, you set this character up as one thing, and then if she were to run away, leave her there. Like, that's a great little flip-flop on her character. Like, oh, she's all talk, but, her running away doesn't fit the characteristics, only for her characteristics to just magically return for the rest of the movie. Like, there's just too many shortcuts.
I guess you call that a character arc, but she's not the main character, so why is she getting the character arc and not the main character?
Right.
It's like, because she rejects the call, but then eventually pull. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, actually, one more thing about that fight that wasn't a fight. I read this week in regards to Marriage Story. When you're writing it, both characters, you want to write it from the perspective of both characters are right. That's what makes an interesting argument. When you write it so one side is clearly wrong, unplanned, it's not interesting and it's not compelling. And I guess that's like a big thing you could say about this movie in that scene. Yeah. Okay? And I'm not saying that, argue against feminism, but just in that moment where they should have had him, where he was arguing something and he wasn't wrong, but they wrote him that he was wrong.
You reminded me, I asked you a question. Is there any difference between Black Christmas and Unplanned as far as message over anything else is concerned?
It's better acted.
That's not the question I asked you.
I know. I decided to throw that.
Well, it was made in Hollywood, so...
it's a problem. It's a very it's just as blatant. It's just as one-sided. And again, I agree with it. So I'm not saying that it's bad that it's one-sided.
Listen. I agree with a lot of stuff that's heavy-handed. It doesn't mean that makes the movie good. You're telling, especially this is fiction. This is a fictional story. What are you doing?
Fictional stories.
And the funny part is, they shouldn't have even called this Black Christmas. This should have just been called like Sorority Stab or something like that. I guess Sorority Roar is already a movie.
So that's what I was about to say. Yeah.
Mid sentence, I was like, "Oh God, bail."
So
it looks like Unplanned was directed by two men. So maybe that's a difference.
This was written by.
This was directed by women.
So
or by a woman, and then co-written by two different ladies. So.
Exactly. Assassination Nation. I'm just going to say it again. It's what this movie wanted to be.
Dude, there's
and maybe not entirely. There's a lot of differences, but like the core of it is, I think.
There's
similar.
6.
I found that one so off-putting. Sorry, but
really? I love that movie.
It was stylistic as hell. I'll give it that. But
There are 6 separate movies that if you like a certain element of Black Christmas, I can say, here, watch this instead. Oh, you like this part? Here, watch this instead. But I have a stat that I gathered, and 2019's been.
We're just
one more time.
We're just gonna talk about Black Christmas the whole time.
We're gonna lead out with this. So,
Gotcha.
2019 more than any other year that I can think of seems to be heavy on the messaging. And so I gathered a couple of movies that seem to be a little strong in the message, some stronger than others. But here are a couple of movies that seem to have a bit of messaging before movie making. Black Christmas opened with 4.2 million. Obviously, right now it's still going. Charlie's Angels opened to 6.4 million. Currently sits on 17 million. Unplanned opened to 8.3 million. Currently sits at 19 million. What Men Want, not nearly as strong. 18.2 million to 55 gross. Terminator Dark Fate, 29.1 opening weekend, 62 total. Men in Black, 30 million to 80 million total. And then Captain Marvel, 153 million to 427 million total gross. So it seems like
Dark Phoenix.
Oh, yeah, I didn't check that one. That was too far low. But it appears to be you better hit hard on that opening weekend with your message movie because that's about a third of what you're pulling in. And a lot of these...
Well, I mean, how much was Terminator really pushing like the pro?
It wasn't. I was just...
Yeah, it was all the advertising.
You're right. I was just, going on... like What Men Want wasn't that heavy either. I was just going with...
God, I hated that movie though.
Right. Well, the big three are Black Christmas, Charlie's Angels, and Unplanned. Charlie's...
Wait, none of us have seen Charlie's Angels yet.
Right.
Just to throw that out there.
It's true. Yes. Sorry, everyone.
But so who knows? Maybe that's just the advertising again. But proceed. Just want to put this.
So do we? I mean, from an opening weekend standpoint, at least. I mean, it's comforting to see that it's only 1/3 of their total, but they're not hitting hard on opening weekend. Do you think?
It's going to fall off so hard this
week. Oh,
week,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's plummeting.
Do you think that maybe?
Yeah.
The dollar is starting to be a little bit more powerful. Do you think Hollywood will get the idea that maybe Joe Sixpack doesn't want to hear how much of a piece of shit he is?
I mean, that's not necessarily even like what the point of these movies are. Like the point of like if you ignore the bad parts and you break down Black Christmas into what it's trying to do, it's trying to call out the fact that that rape culture does exist, and women that get assaulted are either ignored or they're written off saying you were drunk or you were asking for it and stuff like that. That's what the movie's attempting to go for.
Misses, but
and no, I mean it hits it. It just also goes way too far, and it explodes off into weird cults that use butt paddles as weapons. How is this not a comedy?
But by that logic, you can use a movie like Pretty Woman. You can use a movie like Boys Don't Cry. It doesn't have to be the top layer. It could be a piece that leads to a story, but when it's just smothered as the icing, you give the story no room to go anywhere. It's just...
Well, just the trick is if you want to do something, you just need to. If you want to write like a strong lady story, just do it. You don't need to call attention to the fact that you're doing it. Just do it. That's why it works when it works. There's no moment in Atomic Blonde where the movie stops for a minute and it gives a big speech about the dynamics of women and working in the CIA and stuff like that. No, it just shows a very capable lady kicking a whole bunch of ass and just being awesome. Same with Mad Max Fury Road. Same with the original Terminator movies, but I'm trying to think of more recent examples. Same with Wonder Woman.
Well, the horror category specifically doesn't need any sort of reinventing of the wheel. We have a bunch of, scorned woman via rape where she's gone on to like kick ass and make people pay for that. So, I mean, granted, some of them are a little strong for.
And lots of roles by Jodie Foster.
One more time.
Sorry. I said lots of roles by Jodie Foster. But,
Right.
You know,
Right. So
anyway.
it's not like it's anything new. They're done better. I mean, some of them are really gory. So maybe that.
It's a subgenre I'm very uncomfortable
yeah.
with, unfortunately, especially that like the Spit on Your Grave,
Right,
and
right.
even
I've never seen it.
Last
Yeah.
House and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, they're really tough to watch. It's my least favorite subgenre of the horrific. But one thing I saw the director mention though was that she was trying to get back to just the female issue themes of the original film, which I mean the original film. One of the biggest plot points is the fact that this sorority girl is sorority woman, as they constantly corrected in the film, in the new one. She's pregnant and she is having this disagreement with her musician boyfriend about whether they should keep the child or not. She wants to abort. He wants to keep it. And granted, this is 1974, so these were much hotter topics than they are.
Divorce was even taboo back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
God,
and
we were talking about Unplanned earlier. That's hilarious. I mean, it's not hilarious, but
yeah. But I mean, Sophie, the director, was saying that she wanted to get back to. She was critical of the I guess sequelishness, of the Black Xmas, which is obviously much more violent and gory in that regard, but also just kind of pushed a lot of that stuff to the side, and in her estimation made these girls more stereotypes than actual real women with feelings and motivation and stuff like that. And so I guess I will at least contend that, yeah, she succeeded in trying to make it seem that way, but they seemed more one-dimensional in their construct in comparison with the original film. Like, that's what made Black Xmas, the 2004 one, so entertaining for me. It was very much of that 2000s remake culture you got with Hills Have Eyes and Piranha and all of those different films, where it was just gory and crazy, and people were almost to tongue-in-cheek degree stereotypical, and so you were more forgiving of that regard, as opposed to trying to be dramatic, trying to say something more, and almost failing with your attempted message. Because there isn't much of a message at all with Black Xmas.
No.
That one is just bloody and entertaining.
Jaundice.
This one, whereas the 74 one had stuff to say, and I felt like it accomplished that very well.
Sure.
It was a trailblazer in that regard. This one tried to follow in those footsteps and failed, perhaps because of the time constraints we, called attention to, and stuff like that.
I think they cut down from an R, and I'd be intrigued to see just what they cut out of this movie, and if there's any sort of redemption in it. But Lindsey, do you have the stats for the Black Xmas remake? What did that pull in?
I don't have that, but I do have what the original made. While
Okay.
I pull up what the 2006 one made, it made in 1974 dollars $4 million.
That's not bad.
Which is pretty good. That's not bad. Would you like to know what that is in today dollars?
Sure.
Would you like to know more?
Oh, that point will be important in a little bit, because there's an
83 million.
Wow, that's really strong.
That's especially because it was made for, so it's 20 to 1. So it was made for 600,000. So 600,000 times 20, come on, calculator.
1.2. Oh no, wait, 12.
So 12. So 12, and you pull in 84. That's really, really
Indeed.
good.
Yeah.
That's straight up Blumhouse like style of making it big. No wonder they did it.
And obviously, Jason was hoping for here, with just rushing this through the gates the way he did. So.
Yikes.
Yeah. Crap. Okay, so the total gross for the 2006 one was 21.
21, which I don't think this new one's gonna touch.
Probably not, honestly. Wait, see if I can get the opening weekend for 2006.
Oh, you're not gonna want to be here, Trini. We're about to open up in Star Wars.
Okay, so I don't. Opening weekend, 3.3 million.
Wow.
Okay.
But that's in $2006, which aren't like 20 to 1 different, but it is slightly
It would be
different.
close. It would be close to the 4.2, and the '06 remake is thought of as an absolute disaster. So there's that.
And Michelle Trachtenberg and oh my god,
Mary
I'm blanking on
Elizabeth
her name
Winstead.
now.
Yum.
Yes,
Yeah.
great cast.
Yes, indeed. I actually forgot she was in this movie. Totally wearing a wig from what I gauged, but
Yeah, that helps.
So they front loaded last weekend because there's this little movie coming out on Thursday that.
Cats, the cinematic masterpiece of.
Do you want to say that now, or do you want to save it for news?
Let's save it for news. We have to talk about it though, because it's so relevant. Actually, wait, let's do it really quickly because it's relevant to Black Christmas.
Okay.
They screened Cats. We're not going to say much on it, but they screened Cats today for critics. But they also screened that final cut of Cats for the director because they were editing the movie up until today.
That's horrifying.
We're fine. We're all fine. Everything's fine. Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, I guess it happens a lot. Like Justice League was super changed right up until the day. I mean, sometimes sort of. There's rumors that The Rise of Skywalker was. There was that movie that got rid of Kevin Spacey at the last minute, replaced it with Christopher Plummer, and they only had a month to do that. So that probably took the entire month to do. Yeah. So who knows how complicated and how long these things take sometimes? But the day of. That's like scribbling your answers on the quiz as you're like walking it up to teachers' desks.
That's horrifying to be the director and find out with everybody else what your movie looks like. That's no, thank you.
Well, apparently they edited a lot out in the last few weeks. I've also read that.
Yeah.
So like maybe he had hey guys, here's my cut, and it's 3 hours and 58 minutes long, and now they've cut it down to 90.
They must have been like, oh, thank God, everybody thinks Star Wars is being re-edited right now. Hurry up, do your job.
Exactly. So yeah, that's all I got on Cats. I think it's going to be an absolute shit show, and I cannot wait.
That tells me something. If the director saw it with the critics, that's a little alarming.
Well, I think he saw it before them, but
barely
not with enough time to actually change anything. Before.
Right.
They changed the time. Go ahead.
Sorry. So he's not in the edit bay with them. He's not really. I mean, he's just. It's crazy to me. I mean, because he's an esteemed actor, right? I mean, he's done his fair share of celebrated musical films and stuff. Is it the same guy who directed Chicago, if I remember? I want to say.
Chicago, and what was the other one? The sad one, Les Mis.
Les Mis. Both of those. So he has a track record of the sad. And there was a French Les Mis this year that's getting a lot of just like foreign praise and stuff. But yeah, the guy has a pedigree, and which is actually funny to mention with Cats and whatnot. I guess that's more of a dog thing, but nonetheless, it's like, yeah. I mean, I still have talked to a lot of friends of mine who are in theater and are like in the arts of that regard, as far as like stage performance and stuff like that. That they're stoked for this movie. They love the songs. They have seen it when it's either been touring around the country and whatnot and stuff like that. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's an audience that just doesn't care, and then there's also another essence of the audience that is like us, that just wants to see how bonkers, wacky, and hilarious it could be, and we won't go because of our affinity for the property.
The car accident factor.
We just want to see how, yeah, exactly, how bad it could potentially. So there's that curiosity aspect.
What if somehow it ends up beating Star Wars because everyone's like, oh, Star Wars is going to be sold out, and Cats has to be insane. Let's go see Cats.
If that happens.
Like some weird accident.
7th episode of Mandalorian comes out that day. We're staying home.
Oh, that's right. That was an interesting choice by them, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it's coming out Wednesday, which I can't wait for. That should be cool.
It'll be out late tonight, actually. 3 a.m. tonight.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's right, yeah.
So as we fully segue into Star Wars, Mike G, $10 in the super chat. Thank you again. He says, I didn't hate the prequels as much as everyone except Attack of the Clones, which stunk. I haven't given new Star Wars films a chance yet. Which do you like better, prequels or new films? Mike.
My favorite Star Wars movie is still the holiday special, so all these numbered movies can suck it. if there's no grandpa watching Chewie porn, like, I don't care. Okay. Who wants to? The new ones. The numbered Disney movies are better than the prequels.
Yes.
I love Rogue One.
I know. Yeah, it's got a number.
A lot more than the prequels, but
Really, is that close?
I mean, Rogue One is like my number 4 in the entire scheme of the Star Wars. Like, every film that they've released, it's right after the original trilogy is Rogue One, and I mean, I have grown to respect aspects of the prequels, especially with rewatching the Clone Wars, reading some of these prequel era novels and stuff like that. And there's a couple bits in every prequels movie that I think are cool and that I appreciate. Jango and Obi-Wan fighting and Attack of the Clones is one that comes to mind. I really dig that in the rain. I like, Duel of the Fates or whatever it is, that fight with Darth Maul at the end, even if it's too short and his character was underserved. And
right.
And there's a lot more to enjoy about Revenge of the Sith, especially the talk of, is it Darth Plagueis, if I remember correctly, where he's talking about
Plagueis.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, cheating death and everything. That was actually, JJ went on record to say that was his favorite scene from the entirety of the prequels, was just that little discussion between the two of them and how eerie it is and how well acted it is, and just a great job. Ian something, I cannot think of his name. The guy who played McDermott, the guy who plays Palpatine, he's terrific in that scene. And Anakin screaming "I hate you" when he's burning on the lava planet and stuff, when he gets dismembered at the end. I mean, there's stuff to enjoy if you really try to, I don't know, like look at the glass half full mentality. But I don't know. I mean, since Disney took over, they have been more adult and more enjoyable with the return to practical and stuff like that. But I do have big issues with the fact that Rise of Skywalker, the two that have preceded it as far as the sagas go, I was a little underwhelmed, even if I did enjoy a lot of the new characters, more so than anything else. I felt like the older characters were underserved, most notably, Luke and Han. Although I thought Han was better used. So that's just
that was a politician-esque pivot, sir. So are you saying that you prefer the prequels?
I have grown to respect the. Yeah, I know there was a lot of kind of leading around and chicanery there and stuff like that. Lots of
just dancing. Don't mind me.
Yeah, exactly. How the hell can I, commit? No, I have enjoyed the output more since Disney took over, although I don't hate the prequels like I did when they first came out, because when I was in my late teens and the prequels started coming out, and I had seen the special editions a few years before and really enjoyed those, except for Jedi. I felt like they changed too much, especially with songs in Jedi. They changed the song Alice, they changed the song at the end, so that was my biggest gripes, because Jedi is my favorite Star Wars film of all time. So the fact that they changed so much of that pissed me off. I'm glad I have those DVDs. They did a deluxe release with one disc that was, new bonus features and special edition and whatever. And then there was a second separate disc. It's DVD though, so it's not, anything HD, but it's the original cut of the film. And I have that for all three of the original trilogy, which I'm very happy to have, because they're kind of tough to track down. They've been long out of print, and never ripped beyond that.
That song is so jarring in Jedi. Like everything, like I literally just watched it last night. Everything leading into that song, the tone just makes no sense. Well, like it's dismal, it's dark, it's Jabba's palace, and then suddenly it's ba ba da 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 da. And now we have a dance number. It's just so out of left field, that weirdness.
Yeah, and I hate the changing of the Ewok song at the end, because I loved that song as a kid. I watched that movie on VHS so many times growing up. I just rented it over and over and over from the local video store, and to have a different song at the end, with everything being so triumphant and obviously a little bit silly, but those two specific alterations, I like how the Sarlacc pit, when they added a little bit of digital, I don't think it looks as bad as some people are critical of. but yeah, there was just too many musical choices that were changed. I don't hate the Han and Jabba scene in A New Hope very much personally. I mean, some people hate on it because the CGI is kind of but I don't know. It's a fun little bit. So yes, just to shut up about the subject, I do like more of what Disney has done as opposed to when George was trying to go back.
So you're saying yes to the sequels as opposed to the prequels?
Yeah.
He's not wrong. There's a lot to like in the prequels. There's good stuff in them.
I do not disagree.
Yeah. The cast is good when they're allowed to act. The effects, some of them really have aged quite well. Jar Jar still looks pretty dang good today. Like, at least better than he should anyway. I mean, Scooby-Doo came out the same year as that. Like, I mean, come on. And the music, like, it's just so goddamn good, that music.
I'll give a firm answer. Episode 9 could be of Black Christmas quality, and I'd still prefer the 7, 8, 9 over 1, 2, 3. Of the prequels, I think 3 has the most to offer, and even still, that's a bit sloppy at times. But some of the best
at times,
some of the best stuff in those prequels is like the last half of episode 3. There's a lot of neat stuff going on. Really, with the exception of Duel of the Fates. That seems to be the only song that people know from the prequels. That's a really underrated score, those movies. There's a lot of really decent music out in those films that people sleep on. And shit, when Anakin goes bad right up until the end, that's a really badass score. So
in that moment where he kills enough people to unlock the orange eyes as an evil Jedi, it's like, oh, yeah.
Unlocked. It gets a little notification on the bottom of the screen.
he gets the
achievement. Yeah. So to this upcoming film, I have opening weekends in front of me here. And some of them I do not. So for the record, I do not have adjusted for inflation. So this will be a fun go through. The least strong Star Wars film on opening weekend is A New Hope. Wait,
it did better than Caravan of Courage?
I didn't rank that. I'm sorry. So Star Wars: A New Hope brought in $2 million opening weekend, but in today's money, that's quite a bit more. Number 9 on the
40 or 50 probably.
Yeah. Number 9 on the list is Empire Strikes Back with $5 million. Number 8 on the list is Return of the Jedi with $23 million. And now we're starting to get around.
Yeah, look at how much that one did at that time. That's just dang.
Yeah, that's people like.
I'm curious about those adjusted numbers.
I'm telling you, that's probably the strength of Empire too. Just like, I got to see what happens after this. The 7th highest grossing opening weekend is Phantom Menace with $65 million. That one's a little low if you ask me, but I digest.
Well, I guess that's 1999. It's slightly different.
Well, Attack of the Clones pulls in $80 million next. There's a $15 million jump in just 2 years.
I mean, they just needed to see who was replacing Jake Lloyd as Anakin that badly.
So 5th on the list is Solo with 84. 4th on the list is Revenge of the Sith, which is Star Wars Episode 3, with $108 million. 3rd on the list is Rogue One with $155 million. Last Jedi is 2nd with $220 million. And the tippy top is Force Awakens with $248 million. Guys, an early guess.
Well, it's easily going to clear 2, but I kind of think it's going to be the lowest of the new trilogy, of this ending of the saga. I think it's going to go maybe 210, 212, something like that. I know it's only tracking at what, Lindsey, like 190, 195.
What a world!
Something like that. Yeah, exactly. Disney's going to have their $7th or $8th billion film of the year.
Only.
It's the most.
Seven.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I knew it was somewhere in that ballpark because about a week or two ago, I remember seeing that this has now beaten out 15 or 16 as their most $1 billion films that they've ever had in one calendar year, which is just the mouse has all the money. It's maniacal.
insane.
What are you gonna do?
We're saying only with 190 million. I love it.
Okay, so I'm over here doing the math. Star Wars. America loves Star Wars. I'm pulling up numbers on what America citizens are worth altogether. So I'm gonna guess that opening weekend Disney's gonna get 269.6 trillion.
Oh. That's all the money in the world.
Yeah, it's like Disney's gonna literally own everything after this
I think
movie.
they deserve it. I mean, once they merge Starbucks and McDonald's, or actually, I should say, buy both of those, and then they can just own everything. So.
The Disney blob just absorbs the smaller blobs, and the big blob gets blobbier.
Yep, it's just like on that South Park episode with Trapper Keeper Man.
No, but it's gonna hit 200, or if not 200, it's just shy of it. Trillion, million, billion, the number doesn't matter. It's gonna be damn near our 200 something.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Go ahead.
especially if word of mouth is good, right? I mean, it opening weekend, schmopening weekend, it's gonna. If it's good and people are happy with JJ coming back on and just giving his little personal touch, and if people are down with the nostalgia of the Emperor and all these different things, I mean, word of mouth will cruise with this one, and it will own the box office for probably, I'd say, 4 to 6 weeks, if not longer, depending on. Because I mean, I haven't seen upcoming release schedule beyond the end of this year.
I think the biggest thing it's got to worry about, well, Cats on Christmas. And then The Grudge, the opening week of January, which...
Yeah.
Ugh.
Which will make like 10, 20 million. I mean,
it should cruise for about 3 to 4 weeks. It should. But they said that about Last Jedi. Look,
if it's
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially with Jumanji. I actually really can't wait to see how Jumanji, with Rise of Skywalker,
right,
how that goes this time. If it's going to happen again somehow.
And Jumanji overperformed too. They weren't tracking it doing 60. So.
And in addition to Jumanji, there was the Greatest Showman.
Oh right.
Which this time is Cats. So it's all happening again, guys.
Yeah.
Could that be this year's Cats?
No,
oh my God.
Not a chance in
It all
hell.
rhymes. It's the circle theory.
It all rhymes.
Yeah, caught feel, as we say in Stephen King's speech. Everything comes around full circle. So.
So I'm gonna guess and say, I want to say 195.
That's probably solid. Yeah.
But if enough people, like whenever the embargo lifts and there's enough people saying they enjoy it, and I don't mean critics, because officially critics gave Last Jedi a really good score. I think when certain people come out and give their thoughts, I think that might affect the weekend. I could see it going as high as 210. But I think 195 is probably comfortable. I mean, John Campea just made a video earlier today, and he does not like Rise of Skywalker. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. I wish I had known.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I used to watch Campea for years back when he was doing AMC Movie Talk, before they shifted over to Collider, and then before he went solo and so on and so forth. And although I haven't always agreed with his Star Wars opinions and estimations. So, I mean, Tim Harloff, who used to do Jedi Council on Collider, all those different guys, I used to watch all of them and just hear their constant thoughts about stuff. And I didn't always agree with everything they had to say.
I'll be honest, the lot of them, I don't, when it comes to the Disney stuff, I just have a bit of a, I don't care. There's something about what you're saying that no. Because they seem a little too in, for whatever that means.
They've been described as shills before.
You
but
said
then
that word, not me.
Is coming out and,
well, no. So what he said was,
Campea is coming out and saying that he didn't love it. Then I mean, he's out from under that umbrella and has been.
What he said was, a lot of people are really going to enjoy this. I, on the other hand, didn't. So. whatever that means.
I've seen a lot of things like Dan Merle from the Screen Junkies I usually am pretty close with. He said, yikes. I've also seen a lot of people saying it's a huge middle finger to Rian Johnson. Again, like me just scanning stuff because I'm not like reading into anything too deeply or anything like that because I don't want to get that accidental spoiler. But I mean, I'm also seeing a lot of people saying it's amazing. I love you. Don't at me. I love it. I mean,
If it's a middle finger to Last Jedi, then you know that vocal minority is just gonna have a blast with it. You would think, right?
Yeah. I mean, we'll see how.
It's aspect of course correction, right? I mean, that's with bringing on a different director. You know, he was there for the first one, laid groundwork, and had a lot of his ideas altered, and then he gets to come back. And you know, I'm still curious about Trevorrow's script. You know, once that starts popping around on Reddit or whatever, just to kind of see what was really going to happen before Carrie passed unexpectedly and altered the course of everything they were planning to do.
It's so funny how we find out something doesn't just won't happen, and how we make a big stink about hey, I want to know about that thing that didn't happen. I mean, the Snyder cut, which I guess we can talk about later, Lindsey.
Yeah, which didn't get to. Yeah,
I've got some interesting stuff to say about that actually. But Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars.
Well,
that's how I've been opening all my Star Wars videos this entire year, is with that Bill Murray music, man.
Nice.
They better kill younglings.
Black and evil mask. Did he scare you as much as he scared me?
I mean, I'll say that if it's good and I'm crying and I'm happy, I will be eating literal crow on Monday.
Actual crow, huh?
Maybe not. If I'll look it up and if there's I'll get a disease. I'll just get a chicken and dress it up like a crow, and I will eat feathers and all in front of you guys.
Well, cook it beforehand, because
Is that your way of?
Oh, I'm not crazy.
Is that your way of? Is that your way of saying it? You don't think it's going to be good?
Oh no! This is me just saying I am not excited with the direction it seems to be going in, and my hopes aren't high. But if it's good, goddamn man, I went into Last Jedi after The Force Awakens was just a fun retread, and honestly, it's fine. Who cares at the end of the day? But I went into Last Jedi with no hope, and I came out being like, okay, that was
Oh, so you like Last Jedi?
More. I love Last
okay.
Jedi.
You might be in for a ride.
Although I will admit that the whole equalness of Force Awakens, which was the same thing they did with Jurassic World, and both of those movies made tons of money. So I mean, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, with this, you can just say, oh well, Colin Trevorrow's script, that's just legends. It's fine. It's not part of the official universe. So, but it just makes me curious, regardless. And I know somebody like Campia. He read tons of those, like the Thrawn novels and all of the different sequel stuff that they did, where the Emperor was cloned and where all these different things happen. And so, he has at least enough of a understanding of how they continued the story with, sequel stuff after the original trilogy and novels and in comics to be able to critique and compare and in turn criticize.
We all want to know what we got when it's gone. Mike G, once again in Super Chat, $5. Thank you. He says, thanks, guys. I still think Phantom and Revenge of the Sith are underrated. LOL. Do you think at least Ewan McGregor was good as Obi-Wan? Yes.
Best part of the trilogies. Yes. Best part of the trilogies, 100%.
Yeah.
He's one of the few that actually took Lucas's weird Lucas dialogue and had fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, so good he's coming back. I mean, people are fired up about that. I think
people have been begging for stuff like him as Obi-Wan for years.
I think the good thing about no matter what happens with Rise of Skywalker, no matter what, Star Wars on television right now is good.
It's in pretty good shape. Yeah, they have a good just outlook ahead of them with all the different things from the. I mean, they're also doing that Rogue One series with Diego Luna returning, which is going to be like a prequel of that. Just kind of
Rogue 2
of rebellion, so to speak. Well, I guess it would be like Rogue,
pre-Rogue,
Rogue 5 or something, because it takes place before, and they explored some of that in that Rogue One novel that they put out that just kind of had aspects before and after the film, but. Yeah, I'm stoked for that. I'm stoked for Obi-Wan. I'm stoked for a second season of Mando. I mean, the TV game is strong. You know, the Force is strong with the
Right.
TV game. Who knows what the hell is going to happen in the future with these films and stuff, whether we get Old Republic or whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm content as a Star Wars fan because I have enjoyed enough of what they're doing on Disney Plus.
So Rod Stradamus,
I'm loving. Go ahead.
Roger, also known as Rod Stradamus, has predicted those that will like Rise of Skywalker will love it, and those that will not like this Rise of Skywalker will despise it. I have spoken. So
that would happen with the last.
So nobody in the middle is what Roger's saying. So
Well, that's what our world is becoming, man. No more middle grounds. Like everything's the extreme.
It's
of
over,
the extreme
Anakin.
To the max.
I have the high ground. You said middle ground. I'm sorry, I had to.
Yeah, middle. Well, I'm higher than you, but my stance is more like palatable to the general audience.
So, as far as bringing the Emperor back, what do you need to be explained for you to suspend disbelief? And
I want the movie to stop and J.J. Abrams to explain to me for 10 minutes why it's a good idea. I want him to literally say, okay, Lindsey, just go with me here for a minute, man.
Just go, man. Just go.
As long as it's not presented in a dumb way, or like, who knows, maybe they don't even explain it. They just say, oh, it's the Force. And it's like, oh, that's enough. Like, but I know they're not. I know there's going to be some big over-the-top explanation.
I'm honestly not sure if there's going to be. I think they're going to graze over and you're going to get just like a little blip, blip, blip sort of thing, and then he's back.
That'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
And you guys are okay with that?
I mean, even in the comic books, we cloned him, you know.
And you're okay with that? You're ready for the ride? He just kind of, hustles out and just says, oh, by the way, I survived down that fall, and now I'm here to kill you. Look at all these ships. You guys are dead. And then you're okay with that? No explanation, just, yeah, I've been here the whole time.
I've been here the whole time.
I mean, I would be fine with a moderate explanation. I'm not going to ask them to, pull teeth or whatever about this situation. It's Star Wars. It's fantasy.
Thank
it's
you.
I mean, seriously, this isn't like Isaac Asimov or Heinlein where we go into painstaking justification, description, allegorical. I mean, actual real science being implemented into the literary aspect of it. No.
They tried. Everybody hated it. Midichlorians.
Yeah. And yet, man, Lucas still loves those midichlorians. From what all these different people keep saying, JJ included. You know, he's like, man, George just loves those things. He thinks it's so great. Anyway, so.
Well, the word midichlorian is kind of a fun. That's such a nerd word. I wish it was for something that didn't make me violently angry, because it is a very good fantasy word.
As opposed to gently angry.
I mean, sometimes you're like, that's fine, angry. But I'm like, no, you took all the specialness of all the stuff Yoda said and you crapped on it.
You see, I was just less a fan in the prequels of the whole, Virgin Mary and messiahistic aspect. That I mean, I don't know. And then even in turn, like implementing description of spice into the Star Wars universe when that was copped from Frank Herbert and Dune, and just I don't know, George. It's okay. I still love it.
Good.
That's nothing personal, George. It's like, come on, man. Like,
I mean, it's popcorn sci-fi at the end of the day.
It's a lifestyle. You need to look more at the internet, because a lot of people have based their channel on the comings and goings of Star Wars.
And some people based their entire video series on making fun of people talking about Star Wars, a la the new.
That too. Yeah. Is that the Red Letter Media guys that do that?
Oh, so good. You ever see that video where they like liquefied like 40,000 Star Wars toys?
All those poor collectors just like, what are you doing?
Part of me is like, there's probably like $5 million worth of nostalgia, and you're just, oh, you crazy bastards, I love it.
So in the YouTube chat, if he is a clone, wouldn't he not be disfigured from the Force lightning?
Okay, so that's the thing about the Force that people don't understand. Actually, it's a very common misconception. It damages the DNA. because you see the Force has an FDA, and then the FDA comes over with the IRA, and I'm done.
Yeah. And in turn, Ian had to sign when he first got involved with this project, and they were waiting to reveal it at Celebration, and so he couldn't say shit until he walked out on stage. So yeah.
So there's
All the
Imagine keeping that secret for so long. Like how do you?
Well-
You're like, I know a thing.
well, Ewan
What do you
McGregor's
know?
had to sit on the fact that he's Obi-Wan for like 6 years. They said.
yeah.
S-
Although something just occurred to me, guys, this is crazy. Because remember, with the directorial change and everything, Rise of Skywalker, with the amount of time that JJ was given to make this movie, is kind of the Black Christmas of this new trilogy.
Of the three, yeah, it's the tightest
of
one.
the
Yeah,
three of the new trilogy.
It's the closest to
Right.
it, that's for sure.
I mean, and the fact that it's just like your back's against the wall and you just gotta go, man. Like we said earlier. So
So-
But I mean, sometimes some of the best. Some of the best like term papers I wrote back in school were when I had that pressuristic aspect and my back was to the wall and I just had to crank. So I mean, there's a fine line, obviously, between overthinking things and just trying to force inspiration, I guess.
Well, the original Star Wars was made under those crazy conditions, running out of time, running out of money, nothing's working, everything's ugly, we're still changing the script, and then they try and edit it together, and it's terrible until Marshall Lucas
time
comes,
wasn't
like-
really the issue with the original Star Wars. It was money.
No, but yeah, it was the point is it was a hellish production.
Right.
Everyone at the end of was like, screw this
Saved
movie.
in the edit.
Oh God, everyone loves this
Yeah.
movie.
So there's been a TV spot that released, I think it's a 30-second clip that shows Kylo going to where the Emperor is. And it's the Emperor saying that he's all the voices that Kylo has heard. And then you hear his voice, Darth Vader's voice, and Snoke's voice, all saying, I am the voice you've been hearing. So if we find out that the Emperor has been like, I don't know, avataring through Snoke or something. I don't know what that response is, Lindsey.
I mean, it's just I don't understand why they want Star Wars to be so small. Like, cool, it's whatever. Snoke is some asshole who attained a lot of power, but then he was really bad at holding that power, so he got killed and he never did a thing, but he was really ambiguous and ambitious, and he tried and he failed. He's just, if the last James Bond movie did this. Spectre did this by making the previous 3 James Bond movies all be connected to this dude retroactively, even though they were clearly all never just all and it was horrible. People hated Spectre. Why is Star Wars Spectre? Is he like walking through a hallway and like seeing like things that remind him of Darth Vader and Snoke as he's doing this?
So
sorry.
that's
I shouldn't be a negative
that's not
Nancy.
enthusiasm, I'm gathering.
No. I don't know what. Go ahead.
I had purposefully not watched that
Sorry.
clip because I knew that it's fine. I knew there was going to be some weird aspect of spoilery revelation because I mean all of the different headlines that I saw on Twitter were new TV spot reveals the nature of Palpatine in new film, and I was just like, I'm not sure about this, but I don't know. If it's using all 3 of those guises, is it even either of the 3 of them? Could it be something completely different? I mean, I can speculate a lot, I guess, but then because obviously, Palpatine wasn't Vader, although he did manipulate him and use him to a degree. And since I haven't watched the clip, I can't really comment in any, regard about theories on my part here.
Well,
but I mean, everybody's.
Kylo wouldn't know.
You've obviously watched.
Yeah. Kylo wouldn't know what Darth Vader sounds like, though.
Would he?
No,
I mean, could he watch like
old tapes,
old video log, like what tapes or something? I don't know. I mean,
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's all well and good for Kylo, but we're still not addressing Rey, even if this is all true, and the Emperor's been, avataring through a bunch of different methods to get to Kylo. What is Rey's deal?
I hope that Rey's her own mother. She's a time traveler, and she goes back to the past and, I don't know, has sex with, I don't know, the Tashi, who owned the place where he wanted to get the power converters.
The Tashi station.
Yeah, and then the little girl was abandoned on a desert planet. That little girl grew up to be Rey. Boom. Yeah. I don't know. I just want to see this movie and know if I like it or hate it already. I'm sorry. I'm getting punch drunk over here.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want some sort of like resolution to these new characters because, like I said a little while ago, I wasn't as big of a fan of how they tried to incorporate the, old cast from the, regular trilogy and everything.
Well, they had to do a smooth handoff. They had to.
Sure.
No. Yeah, and they had to. I mean, I was happy to see them there, but it felt more so like forced nostalgia as opposed to actually serving as much of a purpose in the plot. I do really enjoy the characters of Rey and Kylo and, Finn and Poe and stuff, even if, Poe has been a little underdeveloped in my regard. And even Finn, especially in the second movie, I thought that both of those guys, took a back seat major. And I don't know. I just want some sort of resolution to them because we're all speculating if we're going to see more of those characters in any other stories later on, if we're just going to let them rest and do spin-offs and rush back thousands of years and see the origins of the Sith and the Jedi and all this different stuff, which I'm totally down for. I'm at least with Lindsey very much so in the fact that I feel like it is such a vast galaxy. I mean, it's a goddamn galaxy. It's not a solar system with a few planets, man. We're talking a galaxy far, far away. And there is so much room, as has been evidenced by Mandalorian, to tell interesting tales that have donuts to do with these characters that we fell in love with. And yet, while we fell in love with those characters, I feel like we fell in love with this, I don't know, this, particular type of sci-fi storytelling even more so, even if I will say it's popcorn or whatever. I mean, Star Trek for me growing up was always the more intellectual side, and Star Wars was the more like visceral, action-y, fantasy, sort of side to things. And I like both. Some people are like, oh, I love GNR, or I love Motley Crue, I love Megadeth, or I love Metallica. You can like them both, guys.
Sure.
It's okay. It's not.
I like both.
Yeah. I choose you. I'll do tally right there, So.
If
I didn't go for Pikachu, I went for Pikachu and Bulbasaur.
I'm way too old.
Yeah.
If
I bought red and blue, god damn it. Come on.
That's the way to do it.
If you had the explicit job of making sure that the internet doesn't think of Rey as a Mary Sue, what do you do in Rise of Skywalker to make her a slightly more flawed character?
Oh, it's
killer.
I really wish they do that, but I don't think they're going to do it.
I don't know.
I want a double switch. I want Kylo to go good and Rey to go bad. They'll never do that though. That would be badass.
I mean, everybody is still speculating redemption for Kylo. They've been talking about that since the second movie, right? I mean,
yeah. I know you gotta love your bad boys. I get
it. The guy who killed Han Solo. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Honestly,
he's not gonna survive. He's gonna totally die. But I'm just not so sure about the redemption aspect or not. But
he'll probably do a thing right before he dies. That's like, in like, oh, this would be so good if like right before he dies, after doing like a big heroic moment, he looks at Rey and he just says, "Am I a good person?"
No.
And then he's just dead. Or no, it's just something along those lines. Not quite that cheesy. Like, am I redeemed, or just something like that? Like he'll have that change of heart moment, and he'll die wondering whether or not he got his redemption. That'd be kind of fun. I mean, not fun, but
he had the high ground.
Yeah, he had the high ground.
But Rey.
As to Rey, though, Rey is a Mary Sue. Who cares? Mary Sue doesn't mean good or bad. It's like passing the Bechdel test. It means nothing.
What I'm asking is, if you had the job to somehow change that thought process throughout the internet, what would you do to her character in 9 that would, be like, look, see, She's just a regular old whatever.
I already said it. She's her own mom.
Okay. Do you know what I would say? I would say you have her. If he is an actual, like, not an apparition or a ghost or whatever, if he's a physical being in this, you have her fight Palpatine and die. Palpatine kills her the way he attempted to kill Luke in Jedi and then failed, obviously. And that's when Kylo makes his turn, and then Kylo goes and strikes down Palpatine. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if he would live or die in that scenario. Maybe, he's like mortally wounded or something, and I don't know. But I would say, yeah, have Palpatine kill Rey, and then have that be the turning point for Kylo. And
that would be awesome.
That's interesting.
For better or worse, yeah, I think that could be cool.
I just remembered Rey's flip lightsaber.
Oh yeah, that
we
shot.
haven't seen anything about that.
Well, and also Dark Rey in that one trailer too. So we don't know if that's
that could be a vision.
I mean, they some chew on. So,
right.
Yeah. It is probably a dream sequence like in the cave in Empire,
Right.
So
it would be awesome.
Still, I just completely forgotten about it until right now, which is funny because there's just so much to talk about with all this. But I still feel like I know
months now, and we still know so little because the trailers have been very, very vague. Which
Good.
I appreciate.
Yeah. I'd rather it be this way. Are you guys fired up? We have about less than 48 hours now. Are we excited? What's the thought process here?
I just want it to be over. I just want to wake up tomorrow and have the memories. I want to be like total recalled for my memories of the future. And I've already seen it and I already know. And just I can start piecing together the remains of my life once this is done.
You only see an epic movie once. I mean, you only experience an epic movie for the first time once. And shit, as much as I'm kind of ho-hum about the MCU, I really enjoyed myself during Endgame. So...
Same. It's one of my favorites of the year.
You can't have that first experience again. So I'm excited. But fourth drawer down brought up have one of our arms. The age old tradition of cutting somebody's hand off in Star Wars. Might as well do that to her.
That'd be cool. What if she loses a leg?
Well, then people can be complaining. All the boys lost their hands, and of course the girl loses her leg. Fuego.
It's just so sad that this is the state that Star Wars is in, really.
Yeah. The vocal minority.
Well, I mean, from the film side of things, though. I mean, isn't it interesting just the dichotomy that we have with the property right now, and the fact that, I mean, all of the novels that I read recently, the couple that they released this year, and some of the older ones, like I finished that Lords of the Sith that I was telling you guys about a couple weeks ago, which was about it's in between 3 and 4, and it's Palpatine and Anakin, or Vader at that point, to getting like a Star Destroyer gets absolutely like attacked by what you would consider terrorists from Ryloth, which are like sowing the seeds for the initial like aspects of the rebellion. They crash land on Ryloth, and they're fighting with everything from the people who are after them trying to kill them to these like big bug looking things almost like straight out of Starship Troopers, and they go down into like one of their little nests, and there's a queen there, and Vader is like slicing up all these different bugs, and then there's this rebel, well, like kind of pre-rebel girl from Ryloth who is trying to kill him and has this vendetta. He decapitates her. It's just, I mean, it's a badass book. There's a lot of great stuff aside from, the films in the TV since Disney took stuff over. But the biggest aspect of controversy is obviously with the features and the stuff that we've seen on the big screen in contrast with comics and novels and video games and these other properties that Disney is trying to milk. And so I'm kind of with you, man, in the fact that I'm down for the saga to be done with. But I was trying to explain to Catherine, my lady, the other day, I was like, whereas Endgame was like about a decade or so of films, this is the end of a saga of films that was started over 40 years ago. So just the magnitude of all of that is really really big to wrap your head around. So
That's true. And and that's the thing that they chose to put on themselves. They could have wrote a story that was more supposed to be like a trilogy, a more of a standalone thing, but they made the decision to make it the big multi-generational thing, and I mean it's interesting. We'll see if it's
could just be the last
pays
thing
off.
from the Skywalker saga. No more
Right,
Skywalkers,
right.
which is fine.
Right.
So
I've been big on. I love Force Awakens. For as much as people say it's samey, coming off of seeing all the prequels when they came out. I never. None of us have had that theater experience from the original trilogy, so the prequels were the next best thing, and they weren't the best thing. Force Awakens.
There was the special edition releases
Yeah,
in the 90s.
I didn't catch it.
which I saw all of those in theaters. It was my first time getting to see them all on the big screen.
Yeah, I bet it was a bigger
was,
deal.
It was special, man. It was very cool.
Force Awakens was that for me. I think that experience has kind of lifted a bunch of points for me, like nostalgia points. Last Jedi, I enjoyed it. I understood what the story was. I got the whole theme of it. I'm okay. Okay, failures to the theme here, and things aren't gonna be what you expect. Okay, I'm cool with that. There's minor gripes that I have with Last Jedi, but at this point I'm just like stick to landing. There's not much that it could be Black Christmas 2019, and that would be unfortunate. But I would still like this franchise, this set more than the prequels. I think 7 and 8 have been strong enough that two solids beat one solid, in my opinion, and that's without knowing anything about 9. So they're playing with house money as far as this loyal servant is concerned.
I don't know if they would just get around to making that third Ewok movie after Battle of Endor and Caravan Man. Best trilogy. Who the hell knows? But
I mean, that's a possibility that needs to be explored, I believe. Fuego. Give me a script by Friday. Chop, chop. But
I have the DVD of it. It's one of those dual-sided DVDs that has both of those because they're not on Disney Plus. And from what I hear, there's no plans to add the Christmas special or the Ewok stuff or even some of those 80s cartoons. Because remember, they had the Droids cartoon, and then there was also there was an Ewoks cartoon as well. I have versions of both of those on home release, and they're kind of rough, But
yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that.
No, I would try and bury those honestly if I was Disney too.
So.
I mean, like very early '80s Hanna-Barbera, but just not the good variety. I guess you could say.
So varying levels of excitement here as we're 2 days out. Obviously, next week will be a very, very, very heavy episode. But is there news from the week that we can talk about before we kick this mother off?
I saw a very interesting thing about the Snyder Cut.
Oh,
last week.
yes, please share that. Yeah.
Tweeting that photo, man.
Yeah, there's that. There is that photo. One of my. I'm gonna pull a Peter here and plug a much larger YouTube.
And just say, it's not the same one.
No. It's Folding Ideas. It's worth a look if you guys are looking for someone who, I don't know how many films and stuff he's worked on, but he's done a lot of editing for a lot of different stuff. So he's got a lot of really interesting.
His video on Suicide Squad is huge, and you might be familiar with that because it's got quite a few views on it.
It went around, and it's a very good video too, actually. So he did a thing about the Snyder Cut, and one of the most genius things that he did, I think, is pointing. Do you guys remember back when X-Men Origins Wolverine came out? Like 2 months before the movies was released, a work print for it was leaked onto the internet.
I do remember this.
And he showed footage from that work print. I'd never seen it before, but goddamn, is it rough? And it made me realize that that was 2 months before the movie was released. The Snyder Cut was from 6 to 7 to 8, 9 months before. It would be in such a state that I can't even. And he just uses that as a way to contextualize it, to show just how much more work would need to be done because things look like this, and you'd have to actually get it to look good. The color grading hadn't even been started yet on a lot of stuff, and that's before we even talk about how there were reshoots that Zack Snyder had planned for the movie that he never even got to shoot. So what they currently had before he left the project wasn't even what you could even really call a director's cut.
Yeah, it's like an incomplete version of even his finished script from what I was reading too. So
Yeah, exactly. A script that was constantly being changed on the fly since Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad both underperformed. It just makes a lot of sense.
And that was because of studio interference, the fact that they were.
And actually, that was my favorite part about the whole thing. He explicitly talked about how the people that said, and it makes sense, the people who said no to his version of Justice League would get fired if they did a Snyder Cut, and the Snyder Cut was a big deal and made a lot of money. So it's like, why would they ever release it?
Yeah. He was undermined, and then in turn, even when Joss took over, he was undermined, and it's, you know.
Oh yeah, no.
I guess studio had final cut. You know, Warner Brothers did what they wanted to do. So.
Yeah, and it's just a horrible mess. And I mean, for the record, I would love to see the Snyder Cut. Would be a fascinating, just thing to gaze at, whatever it is. Even if it's like even a work print, I would like to see just out of sheer curiosity. But yeah, it just probably won't ever happen. I don't know. That's my bit of the news.
Well,
someone else's YouTube video.
So the point that he made in the video was that there was tweets from the likes of Ben Affleck and other actors in the movies that tend to not really tweet too much, and they just had tweets that were the hashtag released a Snyder Cut. So that was on the same day. So that was a little interesting because you know, those actors don't normally tweet, or let alone tweet something where it's just a baity hashtag.
Yeah, so it was obviously a coordinated effort on their part. So,
and I there is that interesting kind of conspiracy theory that HBO is going to start up their own streaming service, and the way they're going to get you to sign up for it is by, hey guys, look, Snyder Cut.
No,
HBO Max. Yeah, that's been long rumored to be one of their launch day things that has actually. Okay, yeah, we're seeing all of this little buzz about it because of the fact that they're just trying to stir up that sort of interest and make people want to sign up for that other streaming service after you already have like 4 or 5 or whatever the hell it is at this particular point. So
so much worse than cable at this point. So much worse.
And it's eventually going to cost more. So good times.
Is that it?
And actually, this is a fun thought I had this week. No, that's enough about all that.
We don't have any more news?
My favorite TV. Just my favorite TV shows of 2019 are all ones I have to wait a week in between. Mandalorian, Watchmen, The Boys. I'm really liking his Dark Materials on HBO as well. That's also quite good.
I've heard good
It's kind of fun to have a forced break in between my TV shows again. I've been enjoying
watching TV like it's the 1900s.
I know. I feel so
time
old.
For discussion, speculation, all that different water cooler aspectism of it, and so.
By the way, I cannot recommend Watchmen enough. It is, I don't know how, but it's just amazing, and I can't wait to hear what Alan Moore thinks about it if he ever sees it. I doubt he will, knowing him, but I would be fascinated to hear his takes on it, whether he loved it or hated it. I would love to hear his opinion. Yeah.
Well, and from what I've seen, the fans murmuring about the show is that. You know, fans love the comic book and were kind of critical of the movie at times. You know, they have hated this, and yet it became this big sensation because of the fact that people who weren't really that familiar with the property, it was averaging like over 7 million viewers a week, like actual viewers, as opposed to people watching it on streaming whateverness, you know?
Exactly.
So, yeah, it was like one of the biggest bona fide hits of 2019, and I know that's not box office, but still, it did gangbusters, and people are pissed that there's apparently going to be no second season.
Oh, I'm so okay. I would watch the hell out of a second season, but like, just leave it here, guys. It's perfect. Just don't touch it. Just leave it alone. Don't J.K. Rowling it, tweeting out weird retcons to it. Just leave it. Like,
stats, news, anything else? Fuego, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, most of the news this past week was of the more meager variety. It was Quentin, as Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has finally made its home release. He gave some little bit of information that he finally has a treatment that he's starting to put together for Kill Bill Volume 3, and that he thinks he is maybe going to actually tried to push that forward as the final picture. There was also a little bit of information that came out about that Star Trek project of his, that every time I heard about Quentin Tarantino doing a Star Trek film, whether written or on a directorial standpoint, I never for a minute thought that was going to be transpiring, and it's apparently dead in the water, as was also confirmed this past week. But yeah. But Kill Bill Volume 3 with Vivica A. Fox's character's daughter, in that first volume, the bride says to her, if you're still feeling really angry in X amount of years, whatever, you come find me. And that's apparently the plot line that Quentin said that he is thinking he's finally ready to explore, thinks he finally has the right idea with how to frame it all up and do it. Uma has claimed to be down countless times. Cool. So...
Kill Kiddo.
That, I mean, I love that it's supposed to be one film together, and it's very apparent that the second half of the feels just drastically different, and it's a much smaller scale.
They're totally different movies, the first and second.
Even the score, the score is completely different in the second film. I mean, everything is,
I love it though. I love both of them.
They're both great. Yeah, they're both terrific, and I would love to see a third volume. How about you guys?
Yeah,
I'd be super down. I would have loved to have seen his Star Trek. That would, even if it was horrible, that would have been a fascinating experience. But I'd definitely be down for more Kill Bill.
Yeah, I would even go further and make sure that movie is another step. Like all three films should be drastically different than one another. That would be kind of fun.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
What if it's like all animated, like that one sequence in Kill Bill?
That would be neat.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
It could be interesting. Okay, that first Kill Bill Volume 1 soundtrack, man, is still one of my absolute favorites. It's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
With the crazy whistling and so much awesomeness. As I scanned, there was a little bit of Stephen King news. Blumhouse is moving forward with their remake of Firestarter.
Twisted Masturbator!
And,
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, that was the song. Excuse me.
Last year, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that is the thing. Our remake of Firestarter moving forward. The original, obviously, having Drew Barrymore as our lead, and then they're also remaking The Dark Half. I'm not sure if either of you guys are familiar with that. It was a Stephen King adaptation that George Romero initially directed. Starred Timothy Hutton, if I recall, and he was playing two dueling roles. One of which was a tortured writer who writes under a pseudonym.
Oh, Stephen King writing about a writer. That's so crazy.
I know. Yeah. It's always writers or teachers, man. That's his forte. So both of those, I actually have a video that I'm getting ready to put together probably early next year, and it's a topic I'm going to contend, has the Stephen King Assance concluded, especially with the fact that It Chapter 2 is, and the It thing is done, and that's what sent the resurgence into this fever pitch. And on top of that, with just how poorly Dr. Sleep performed and stuff, and we don't know if there's going to be another season of Castle Rock. Mr. Mercedes is done. There's still a lot of properties in development, but I just kind of wonder if the mainstream audience is kind of starting to get over it, especially with the fact that there's not going to be any more Pennywise stories, and unless they do that huge, whatever cut where they put both movies together along with all the additional scenes that are apparently still sitting on the cutting room floor. So
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, more Stephen King.
Something they talked about
that,
for a while.
actually.
What
if they did doesn't the Dark Tower, because doesn't other Stephen King stuff come into the Dark Tower?
Oh, tons of it, man. Salem's Lot, It.
Okay. So if they made another Dark Tower? Sorry.
There's the Amazon Prime series that they're still trying to get together. The pilot has been either filmed or is in post-production or something. I know it's somewhere around there, but it's that in the Lord of the Rings series that they're trying to get ordered, but there's no confirmation as to if this new Dark Tower TV series is actually even going to happen, because lots of Amazon programs they film a pilot and then they don't go to series. They're just one and done thing that nobody ever gets to see, which is kind of a bust. So
Zombieland.
Yeah, yeah, they tried doing it with that as well. So, and then last thing was Matrix 4 coming out the same day as John Wick 4.
Oh,
Those two, but,
Keanu
like,
Day.
They have set, yeah, they have set the same release day for both of those. You have to believe one of them is going to move. It's a stalemate. It's like it's playing chicken, sort of thing. But I don't know. Are you guys excited about a Matrix 4? Do you have interest?
I hope they don't change the date. I want to see Keanu kill Keanu, like, really badly. I want to see that at the box office. But I'm so down for a Matrix 4. Fuck it, just give it to me. I just said our one for the show. I'm sorry.
I don't remember. Like, I need to rewatch 2 and 3 again for the Matrix, because those are the 2 I've seen the least, and I don't think I've seen them since they came out. So I don't remember it sticking with me too much, but I guess. I mean, sure.
Yeah. Two had moments for me that I enjoyed, especially like that whole chase scene on the freeway and stuff. But like 3, I absolutely hated. I thought it borrowed way too many ideas from Aliens and Terminator, and just felt very unoriginal and was not the conclusion to that story that I wanted. So. But that first film, I still remember walking into the theater to see the original Matrix film and knowing very little. The trailers were very vague about the actual, like, pull the curtain back aspect of what was really transpiring, and that movie just blew my mind. I don't think that you can ever really have that sort of reveal once again. It's almost like rewatching The Sixth Sense, so to speak, and trying to find as much coolness as when you really realized what was going on, and just the whole revelation aspect of that. And of course, there was a Matrix movie called Revelations. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I'm pumped. I guess the whole Keanu Sans is transpiring. There was first photos today of the third Bill and Ted movie. So, and where they're in the phone booth and stuff. So I don't know.
Guy looks fantastic for however old he is. He looks incredible.
Exactly.
No, yeah, he's aged better than what Bill Winters?
Yeah. His counterpart.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, that's about it, man. I mean, being the holidays, it was just kind of a slow week, at least as far as like bigger week. Everybody is just stepping out of the way, and they're just like, hey, let it be Baby Yoda and this end to the sagas, and let's just stay the hell out of their way.
Yeah, just trying to prepare for the storm. We don't know how bad it's going to be, how many states get affected by the path. But
actually, a question about the Mandalorian. Nope. I'm loving it. That's my say to you. I really do like it, but I do kind of want it to start feeling like it's got more of a direction.
That's the way I felt after the last few episodes, where they felt like just kind of like side story of the week, so to speak, thing, as opposed to the first 3 episodes that had that continuative narrative and stuff. I mean, ever since 3, I've been
and arguably 4 because they're trying to hide.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess I liked going back to Tatooine, but that was all fan service and stuff like that. Right. Bill Burr took me out of it. He felt out of place to me, and I know a lot of people really dug him on there, but he just kind of took me out of the story. And while I thought he was good, I'm just like, I'm watching Bill Burr's Star Wars, and it kind of took me out of the escapist aspect. At least
I'm wondering how many people who aren't familiar with Bill Burr, how that experience is, because I'm right there with you, Fuego. I was watching it, and I was like, oh, neat, Bill Burr's in a Star Wars thing. But within 2 minutes, I was like, oh, Bill Burr's in a Star Wars thing as Bill Burr. And those aren't things I want together. Like, peanut butter tastes great, and I don't know, chicken tastes great, but I wouldn't want those two together. So
yeah, it was kind of a clashing thing, and it just took me out of the escapist aspect. And I also didn't like the former Flame. I felt like she was like really overacting, and she was just like doing the whole Fang thing the whole time, like and all this stuff.
There was hints of that.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was overdoing it.
Well, not just her too. Her brother was a little bit where it was just like, all right, just.
Yeah.
Can we use a better take, please?
Yeah.
I understand she had like vibro daggers or whatever, but I was like, you're not a threat to the Mandalorian with your little knives, honey. Yeah. I'm sorry. When you guys eventually fight, it's just not going to be interesting.
And we still have yet to see Gus from Breaking Bad.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. Can't wait for that. That's going to be fun.
Well, I mean, it's clear that Baby Yoda is the MacGuffin of this season. So they're just kind of
very much.
He's carrying. I mean, it. Like I felt that about I want to say the 5th episode where the bounty hunter found the chick. Right, and he was sticking with her while the Mandalorian went back to get his ship or something. That to me felt like a good old filler episode. It felt very Walking Dead-ish in this really isn't passing the story along, but I was okay with it.
That was the weaker episode, I think.
But it's still a good time. And this most recent one felt like a horror episode, so it means to an end. I'm not unhappy. I'm quite enjoying it. It's just all right. So this is what filler looks like on this series.
Well, and there's only 2 episodes left, which is crazy.
How many episodes?
More. There's only 2 more. It's an 8-episode season.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So what will be resolved? What are they? That's where I'm really speculating, because as much fun as I have had, I'm like, man, they're just. I mean, I guess it's obvious why they confirmed the 2nd season before the first one even debuted. So
they realized that people are going to like it but be annoyed by filler. But I mean, filler and TV, they go hand in hand. Like even some of my favorite anime of all time have some super fillery episodes. With,
DBZ, oh my god.
I mean, I love me some DBZ, but it is 90% filler.
Yeah.
Which is why they streamlined it when they relaunched a few years ago, right? With
Dragon Ball Z Kai or something like that. Yeah.
Kai, yeah.
I actually quite like Kai. I love that you brought that up.
So, any last words before we shut her down for the night?
McClunky.
Always a good
Which,
one.
by the way, I watched the 4K whatever the Star Wars ones on the network, and they need to there's more work that needs to be done, because all the lasers look dead. It's just really, really funky. Something's wrong.
It shows
it's
like
very glitchy service.
Well, no, I'm talking about like however they restored it. Like laser shots are just like faded. They look really, really bad.
Oh.
Yeah. 4K, the great thing about 4K is light. Like plays like light. Like the really weird thing, if you ever watch a 4K where like there's a car coming your way, the person who's like in shot still is lit and in focus, but the headlights in the shot are bright enough where you're like, it's got a very realistic look to it, light in 4K.
Interesting.
And I would assume lasers are made by light, but what the hell do I know?
They're 80% light, 60% water.
I've just had friends of mine tell me that it shows like how dated some of those special edition effects are, even the ones that they've tried to touch up over the years. Like it just it makes how glaring some of those imperfections actually are. So.
Well, that makes sense if it's so much about light, because that's the thing that really, really, really breaks a lot of CGI effects. Even if you don't necessarily realize it, like just the fact that the way that the light plays on them is even slightly different than the things around them. It like you subconsciously know that it's like just inserted there as opposed to really being there. But that's why Jurassic Park still looks good today.
Well, it was half and half too.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Well, and to use a very stereotypical sexist thing that somebody would probably say if they're of that black Christmas ilk, is that they're like, oh, okay, that's why you meet women in dark bars and stuff, because and Ben and whatever your whole thing is because of the fact that you don't like see the full extent of them being brightly lit, and you can see like their actual appearance. It's slightly askew.
I've got the death sentence in 12 systems. You'll be dead.
You'll be dead, guy.
I don't like you either.
Live test show says I think that's HDR, which could be that's an interest. I'll have to fuck with the TV to see what. Finagle with the TV to see if.
Remember to turn motion blurring on, because it makes all movies look better.
Mm-hmm. Fuego, what about...
I just said...
I was just going to briefly interject and say I've experienced what Lindsey was mentioning a little bit, though, where I'll be trying to stream on it, and it doesn't matter if it's my television, my computer, I'll watch a few episodes of something, most notably Clone Wars that I've been trying to binge, when I was sick the last couple of days and stuff, and it'll just randomly go to a dismiss, and like the episodes will crash, and so they're still trying to get all the kinks out of it, obviously.
Yeah, Disney service as a whole so far, we're what, a month and a half deep, 2 months deep on this service, and they don't have it yet, and I don't know if they're trying to win people over from these first couple of weeks. I mean,
there's always growing pains. It would be nice if they got some of them ironed out. I guess because they fixed the Simpsons thing. I think because I've been watching that and I haven't noticed anything.
They've got to throw around a free month or something like that. Just be like, listen, we're working on it. Thanks for hanging around. Or people who maybe did a trial and left, just be like, hey, listen, especially if you left because of our technical issues, come on back, join us for a month, and let us win you back over.
That'd be clever. Like I remember when the Screen Junkies launched Screen Junkies Plus, they gave like a free 2-3 months or something like that. But I mean, I guess that's Screen Junkies content versus Disney. They wanted to make sure people liked it enough to want to start paying for it before. Anyway, there's always growing pains. Every big online video game, the servers crash for weeks and weeks until they finally get them figured out and stuff like that. And this is that, but on a bigger scale. Disney. But with even, exactly. Yeah, you're right.
They have money to
throw
fix
an extra
this.
$1 billion out of it. Yeah.
Fuego, anything you got to plug coming up?
Well, probably going to try to film a review for both Marriage Story that I watched the other day when I was getting over the flu, and I'll probably do some sort of discussion about that Jumanji sequel, and then I still am planning to put up maybe in the next day or so just a couple retro reviews of the original trilogy of Star Wars. So I was originally trying to get done, a bunch of the Clone Wars, but I watched some of it when I was initially getting sick, and I ended up just sleeping, trying to get over the crud. So yeah, I'm only about season 3, so I still haven't got the Return of Darth Maul or anything of that nature. But it's about to relaunch. Well, then if they've seen Solo, they know that Darth Maul gets back. But there is a 7th and final season that is coming to Disney Plus of the Clone Wars, which is kind of cool. And so who knows? Maybe I'll just hold off on that coverage and just maybe talk about the seasons once we're getting closer to that release.
Cool.
So,
Lindsey.
I'm probably going to do something about Star Wars. We'll see what.
Yay.
My 2 cents of nonsense. Check it out, or don't.
Both channel links are down below. Excuse me, all 3. So Fuego's with Fuegotainment and Fuegotainment.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I almost forgot. How could I? At the Horror Show, Cecil just ended his campaign for Dylan's New Nightmare, and it didn't quite hit the number that he was hoping, but it's still close enough where with some maneuvering, it is most definitely still going to be happening. We're about to film all of our year-end best ofs, so we're going to be talking about our favorite horror films of the year. I think we're filming that this weekend when we all get together. We're also going to be doing a White Elephant live stream and a few other things. And then lastly, I know that when I was sick last week, he did a review of the new Black Christmas, but we're actually filming reviews of the 1974 original and the 2000s. It's more a sequel than an actual remake in my estimation. So we're going to be filming reviews of both of those two. So youtube.com/The Horror Show.
That link is down below as well. Silly Cecil hasn't seen the original Black Christmas yet, but interesting to see how he feels watching that last, because that's interesting. And as far as I'm concerned, you guys can probably tell my cheek is swollen. I got some issues here. If and when stuff does come up on this channel, it will be Star Wars related. This is a pretty heavy Star Wars week. And then after this week, it'll be right into end of year stuff. Emily and I will both be doing that dual channel top 10 horror of the year list. We're going to be doing top 10 of the year in general list, but that will mostly be on this channel. We did that last year. My list, which is, bottom to top for the year, that will be started at the very least. And who's going to be at the bottom? That's the big question.
Knives Out.
No, that will not be at the bottom. But guys, the next time we see you, we'll all have watched Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker.
Most
Look
likely.
at all this excitement.
Most likely.
Mostly.
So says the least excited of the three of us, I would say.
I'll get around to it. I'll